Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hot Topics, the show, the podcast where we create, inspire, and
Transform.
there you go. This is Gloria Goldberg, the founder of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, PTSD in a holistic way, a natural way to always make you feel better. And next to me, like always, my beautiful co host, Kia Baker.
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm sure you know me by now, but if you don't, my name is Kia Baker, and I am the creator and host of the Female Veterans Podcast, as well as the new series, Women Warrior Stories, for the Veterans Channel, and success coach at London Real Academy. So, my love, you look
Yes,
beautiful today.
you look beautiful too. Thank you so
Oh, thank
much.
you.
How you been?
I've been pretty good. Just crazy, getting busy at the beginning of the year. All of a sudden, it
Yes.
was like at the end of the year, things were like really slow for me. Hi,
Hi,
George.
George. Thank
But
you.
but now things are really picking up. I've got new projects coming together. I had to find a concert pianist, a jazz pianist, to start rehearsing my song with live, like in person. And that's really
What?
exciting. I'm going to be in the studio next month. So I'm planning all of that. I've got a new documentary that I'm going to be working on.
Johnny
And hi,
Durango.
Johnny.
Hi,
I've just been working.
parcero. Yeah.
I'm supposed to be working. And so I am going to be doing a lot of work with my charity that I work with. I'm on the board of directors for Hope for Veterans in South Florida, or in the state of Florida. They help women all over Florida. As you know, I used to live in Miami, so I'm very affectionate for Florida. And so I'm doing some work with them. And next month I start interview again for the Female Veterans Podcast. So I'm going to be
Awesome.
doing new interviews, and season 4 is just about to finish with the season finale upcoming this week. So I'm busy.
What? You're very busy.
Yeah, two
You
two
know
new
what?
courses too.
It looks like Johnny Durango have the notifications on because he's one of in George too because they are right away connected. So the
That's right.
notifications are working.
That's right. So if you'd like to see more of us, whenever we pop on here live, set your notifications.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
dear, I'm so happy for all the things that happenings to you, but also I'm super happy what is happening to Hot Topics. You see that video, 201K? I
Oh
couldn't
my
believe
God.
it. I couldn't believe it. You told me that because we are so busy, we didn't pay attention. So, what was your surprise for you when you saw that, Kia?
Oh my God. So our episodes usually do pretty well, but I
Yes.
mean, not like hundreds of thousands of views,
No.
right? I mean, we do well.
Yeah.
And I think our record had been 77,000, which we were like blown away by
Right.
last year.
Right.
And my first thought was I saw this and I saw it at 150,000 and I was like, wow, that's incredible. So I wrote to Anna Rito, who is of course a former student of mine and the guest for that episode, and I said, look how great your episode is doing. And when she reposted it later the same day, it was 164,000, and I was like, wow, it's still going.
Yes.
And last night I looked again and it was 200,000. And I thought, oh my God, people are really, something is very engaging about that episode and people are really loving it. We're getting lots of really positive comments, lots of
Yes.
really positive messages in our DMs and our direct mail inbox. And it's been really incredible.
I read one of the comments in one of our shows from somebody that follow us, and he said we was talking about growing growing spirituality, that you have to forgive and not be and forget things that happens to you in the past. And the guy was saying that it's too hard to do that when like things happen all the time, like the same thing, like the cycles that we talk about it, that always happen and we don't know why. And so I replied to him today. I said, well, the growing process is not easy. You just need to be aware, why are you creating that cycle? And when you notice that you're creating that cycle, find what is exactly is creating that cycle for you to cut it. And then you will find the way to resolve that trauma or that issue. So somebody replied later on, he said, good luck with that.
It's not easy.
It's not easy,
It's not easy. And that's
period.
why a lot of people don't want to do the work,
No,
but if you do, it's like, you know what they say, like the juiciest fruit is at the top of the tree, right? You
exactly.
have to climb, you have to do the work to get the best result. It's
Yes.
hard, but it's worth it at the end when you're feeling so much better.
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
know that feeling very well all the time.
And I mean, it's a continuous process. We're
Yes.
all just beautiful works in progress all the
and,
time.
and we make all mistakes and we are perfectly imperfect.
That's right. That's right. So, but if you are fortunate enough to find a way to love yourself and love yourself in the way that you perhaps never experienced or would wish to be loved, then you'll attract that kind of love to you.
Yeah.
And so it all begins with you, doing the work, finding a way to forgive yourself. You can't forgive others, then it's likely that you're not forgiving yourself for something. And if you
Yes.
if you realize that you think that that's not true, then maybe your ego is telling you something else, and your ego and your pride is in the way. And with that in the way, it's really hard to grow. Really hard to grow.
Yes, yes. And people, I love when people start like a waking up. I think that if they watch any of our episodes of any topics, I would say that mean that it's like the spirituality or the awareness is starting on you. Because when you watch our shows, you find the deepest conversations that is gonna make you feel better. Like I always said, and that's as our intention always, to bring those topics, topics that a lot of people probably they're not ready to talk, and we bring it here, and we bring all these beautiful guests that shares all the knowledge and experience to help other people. And that's what Hot Topics is. We just looking forward to help all the time people.
Well, I mean, everybody's got a story, right? And if
Yes.
you listen to it, it resonates with you. There's something in that story for you
Yes.
that can help you on your journey, because we're all just, I mean, the only thing that's certain is that we're going to die. And everything in between this very moment and that is up to you.
Yes.
So if someone's story impacts you and motivates you in a positive way, that's why we're here. That's what we hope
Yes.
for, right? So,
And today episode is gonna be so awesome. I can't wait, because the name of the episode say Taxi Chronicles. That tells you everything. And I'm so curious to ask so much questions to this to this guest, because he probably have wonderful conversations and weird conversations and all kind of conversations. So I'm kind of dying for him to come.
yeah. So we're going to introduce him, okay? And so
Yes.
hey girl, we have a
Hey.
very special guest. We need to catch up.
Yes, I
Seriously.
have to talk to her too.
The Cush nurse,
Good Kushners.
Sandra. And if you have questions about medical marijuana, then you need to go check her out.
Yes.
Look for the Cush nurse. She comes up everywhere if you put that in. So find out everything you need to know and more from a nurse. Hmm.
Sandra, I have curly hair like you.
Isn't she beautiful? So yeah, our guest, he has a podcast called the Taxi Chronicles. Oh, we miss you too.
Yes.
Sweet.
So
Such a
sweet.
fun time interviewing her. If you haven't seen that episode, then, like I always say, go to our Hot Topics Live Facebook page, scroll down through the episodes, and find the one with the Kushners and check it out. She's amazing and
Amazing.
insightful, and that episode can really help you if you suffer with anxiety, depression, PTSD, chronic pain, lots of
Yes.
stuff. So good information there.
Yes.
Um, so Simon,
Uh-huh.
our guest today,
Yes.
he is one of my students from London Real Academy.
Uh-huh.
And I had the distinct pleasure of helping him bring his podcast to life. Now, since then, he shifted gears and he drives. Well, I'm not going to give it all away,
No.
but as you can guess from the name, Taxi Chronicles
Right.
podcast,
Right.
he interviews people while driving them. And that is so cool. So I imagine, like you said, there's so many really cool stories that he must hear. But that's not all he
Yes.
does. He has another live stream show, just like ours, but it's a panel of former students of mine
I saw
who
that.
have created a show called Podcasters Unleashed. And it's amazing. They tackled serious topics, all sorts of topics in a panel form. And what is it? What's your lipstick, honey?
Is that Rihanna? Rihanna, remember I told you the name? It's from
Fenty
Rihanna.
Beauty.
Venti Beauty. From
What color? Do
Rihanna.
you know the
Red.
color?
The red one. It's the only red that she have.
Okay, there you go, honey. Everybody that likes that lipstick, I am wearing MAC. So actually, I'm wearing a combo of MAC and Kat Von D
Oh,
Beauty.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mixed them.
I love this lipstick. The color.
But you know how we do our red lips for
Thank
the
you.
show.
Exactly.
So we're gonna bring on Simon. He was
Yeah.
in the Royal Military.
Oh.
Okay, he helps people invest in Africa.
Wow.
Okay, he is the kindest person, one of the kindest people I've ever met. He's genuinely just a warm and wonderful human being. And it was such a pleasure for me to get to know him on the course at London Real Academy, where I teach people how to create their podcasts. So I'm excited to get to hang out with him again because it's been a while. Should we bring him on?
Yes, it's bring your mom to bring that powerful voice. Here he is.
Hi, girls. How ladies?
Hi.
Hi.
hmm
Hi, Simon. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. It's great introduction. Nice to be here.
Yes. Well, tell us where you are and what time it is for you, right, Gloria?
Yes, please.
I'm in London, England. It's 28 minutes past 8 at night or PM. And yeah, I'm in South London. East South, sorry, no, excuse me. I'm in East London, not South London, which is what is Stratford. So it's near where we had the Olympics. Olympics when we had the Olympic Village.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole village, and I managed to acquire a room where I'm doing the podcast from there. There's one of my Podcasters Unleashed guests on there. I was trying to make so I could push the link out.
Be kind and simple. He's
Well,
sensitive.
we'll do our best, Kaula.
Yeah,
But I make no promises.
mm-hmm.
So Simon is in London. Kia, is your location so people can know that too?
I am 20 minutes north of Portland, Oregon. I am in a very small town, or small city, I should say, on the very southernmost part of Washington State.
Wow. Okay. My location is Florida right now, and it's 3:29 p.m. So we have 3 places around the world connected here today.
It turned 12:30 for me. So before we go
Wonderful.
on, I should say our disclaimers, right?
Yes,
So
please.
if you are not 18 years old, you're below 18, typically we ask you to click off because we never know what's going to come out of our mouths. And it
Right.
may be inappropriate for you if you are below 18 years old. Now, also, we do not always agree with everything that our guests say and their opinions, but we definitely believe in their right to have them and express them. So that's what we do. We provide that
Exactly.
platform for them to do that. So, that being said, Simon, I know that you were in the Royal Military. What led you to join?
It's something I always wanted to do from the childhood. When I was very young, about 5 years old, I was given a book, and it was a dictionary, and it had like obviously A to Z, and every letter had an indication with a picture. So A was for army, S was for soldier, and P was for policeman. And I used to look at a soldier with his gun and look at the picture with army, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that. But then I wanted to be a policeman as well. And then my dad at that time, is my adopted father, he said, you can't be both, you've got to pick one career. So I said, well, the army guy looks better, so I'll go for that. And then later on in life, I think I said, what, late teens, early 20s, some people started to talk to me. Actually, I heard there's some family members who are, let's say, on the different side of the tracks, and their friends were talking about how they were throwing grenades and doing certain things in the reserves, what the equivalent you guys would call the reserves. And I thought, well, if they could do that, and they kind of live on the street, kind of hustling, I reckon I can do that. And I got one of them to take me to the place, and then I signed up, and the rest is history. I changed throughout that time. I went from it started off the Territorial Army, which is reserves, and then we was meant to go to Kosovo at that time, the Yugoslavia, the big campaign, and I got an opportunity to do a degree. Now, on my father's side of the family, I'm the oldest out of all the cousins, and I was the first one. None of us had degrees, so my old regimental sergeant major with the big old Indian moustache that curls either side, he'd been in there 30 years. I said, what do you think I should do, sir? And he said, listen, the British military will always be fighting wars. History shows that. Go and get your education, and then come back, and if you want to find a war to fight, well, I'm sure we'll have one for you. And basically, it was grateful. I went off to study commercial construction. I got a degree in there, and then I came back. But when I came back, because I had a degree in commercial construction, I wanted to be full-time. But the money it was going to offer me wasn't as good. And I tried to find another reservist unit. It's like combat engineers, building bridges, all that kind of thing, so I could put my skills that I've learned in uni into place. And basically, a section of the army said to me, yeah, we do that. They actually told me a porky. Sorry, in English, that's a lie. And they said, and it was just a driving unit. But I ended up, later on, I stuck with them for so many years, did all their training, going around the world and different places. And then I decided I was going to leave them to go to the Royal Marine Commandos. And so I started to train with them, and then we were all sent to Afghanistan on a first tour. So that was a Royal Marine tour anyway. So I saw how they operated. So I did that tour, came back, signed up with them kind of full time, and then went to do and did another tour. And then after that, about 2010, I left. Yeah, I did my last tour, Afghan, 2010. So that's my backstory on the military side of things.
So, as a veteran myself, and I always am interviewing veterans, I have to ask this: what was your biggest takeaway from being in the military?
Mental strength and
one.
focus. Yeah, and I get told off for this because people tell me how they feel all the time. I'm not interested in your feelings. We're here to do a job. Let's just get the job done. Do you understand? If you want to get the job done, let's just get it done.
Yes.
Yeah, how we feel about it later on, we've all committed. Do you see what I mean? It's nice to have that ability to feel nice on everything you do, but sometimes we all have to do jobs we don't like. We don't feel the best, but if you've committed to it, stick to your commitment, get the job done. That being said, it's not all tough guy, but to get the job done, you do need to have a, how do you say, have a word with yourself and say, why am I really here? And what is the objective? Let me just get that done, and I can be warm and cuddly and lovely afterwards. But right now we've got to do this, so let's just get this done. And that's kind of how I've gone through life as an adult. It's okay. This situation may not be in my favor, but is it something I have to address? And if it is, then I address it and I deal with it. And then later on, I can examine why was I in that situation in the first place, and try to avoid being in that predicament. But we all take things from life in different ways. I come from children's home, so I was in children's home for 6 months. So it's been, I wouldn't say rough, but you don't have that firm parent all the time. Who you, let's say in a typical nuclear family, that you can always be that soft, oh, mum will make it good, or dad this, no. Like we said, I spoke about on another episode on the podcast for the least, in the 70s, if you're in a children's home, it's like 30 children. If you're the little one, you're the little one in that respect. But it's all love. There's pros and cons to everything in life. And the biggest thing is always look on the positive.
That's so true. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I was also in a children's home in the 70s. Okay. Yeah. In Pennsylvania, actually, I spent 3 years in a Catholic children's home called St. Vincent's in the northeast side of Philadelphia. And so I definitely understand that. And I for sure understand not having that nuclear family, that support system, and also being the little one. So
like the nutrition, like the mother nutrition, you didn't have that. So it's hard.
Not always, right? Yeah, really little. I think I was three to 5 I spent there. But then I went back home with my family. And also I identify with that whole, when you have a job to do, you have to do it. And that is something that I also learned in the military, that mental toughness, but also it was also in personal conflict with who I am as a person, because I'm a feeling person. I always got feelings about everything, but it's the military is where I learned to compartmentalize that. And set how I feel aside in favor of completing the job, doing the mission, whatever we needed to get done. And for me, I was serving during peacetime. So for me, the mission was just, taking care of the recruit surge of sick people and dispensing their meds, right? But it was the mission and it had to be done. And, no matter how worried I was about getting sick or dealing with so many people in a day, because there's hundreds of people we had to take care of in a day, it had to get done, right? So, and I definitely know that you carry that with you after the military and into all sorts of life situations, which brings me to my next question. What other kinds of situations have you found yourself in where having that mental toughness has been a benefit for you?
That's a good question.
I'd say when it comes to your children, if you have a breakup, obviously you don't want the children, as a father, you want your children by your side, but realistic, you can't. And depending on the circumstances, things may not be the best between you and your ex-partner. So what you've got to look at is, what is the focus here? The focus is your child's well-being. Yes. So whether your ex-partner is upset with you at that present moment, or you think you're okay, but she's had a bad day with somebody, her new partner, and now she's taking it out on you on the phone, doesn't matter. Just take it on the chin. As long as the child's okay, you're doing what you're meant to do for your child, and that's the main focus. And that's where you do need to put your own personal feelings aside, and to a certain degree, because you're not totally putting your feelings aside, because you feel for your child. Do you see what I mean? So one hand, you're using the feelings that actually help you achieve your goal, but the ones that are a hindrance, you're putting them in a compartment. Say, okay, I may need you later on, but right now you're not going to help the show. Do you understand? In that
Yes.
respect of things, and that's what I'd say. And I've spoken to many people who are going through relationship issues, whether it's involving kids or whatever, and I always tell them, just look at what the end game is, because if you can keep your eye on the end game, then and apply it, then you'll be okay. If you're just going to let your emotions run around with you, then it's not really going to help you or anybody. You know, we want to be on a good par with our ex-partner, especially if kids are involved, but just people in general. You know,
Yes,
you
totally.
want to leave a positive experience that you meet. So when for instance, I used to jog a lot when I used to live in Kenya, and I used to listen to a lot of motivational stuff, and I remember it's like that is a goal of mine and I slip up all the time, but it's trying to leave a positive experience with somebody you've met, even if there's negative, even if they seem quite negative at the start. It carries a long way. A way I do that is always try and find out about the person, and if I could tell them my story, give them advice, like if they're trying to build something, for instance, like when people get in my taxi and you say, oh, what do you do? And they start to say, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I know, I interviewed somebody who does that profession. You might want to listen to that, because it's telling you, because that's that person who I've interviewed. They're giving a brief masterclass, excuse me. So the journey is 5 to 15 minutes, but for some reason, when people get in a taxi, it's like sitting in a psychiatrist's seat. They just offload. So they really, really talk, and they share their experience. And I ask key questions. What would you do it again? Would you encourage a younger person to do it? What have you learned that you would wish you knew when you started this? And there's the last question, which I've actually nicked from impact theory, is what's the impact you want to have on the world? But that always stumps people. And the beautiful thing is, most people, 99.9% of the people, actually want to leave a good aura, aroma on the world, a good impact. They say something really positive. Now, mind you, I haven't interviewed any politicians yet, so that's probably 0.11%. Yeah? Everybody else, they're all on that same vibe. They want to make the world a nicer place. They want to leave a positive mark. They want world peace, regardless of what just the models say. And it's been really interesting. You hear all kind of stories. I tell you, all kind of stories in a taxi. Yeah.
So,
I know I've deviated quite.
but also what you just said, that like a 90% of the people that goes in your car, they want the same thing. That's also very good to know, because that's like kind of a statistic to you in a minor scale, that it is still in this world a lot of people that likes the same thing, and there's still love, and there's still people there that want the best thing for this world. So you are having every day a statistic of you measuring how the auras and the energy of the people are going through, and you don't choose. They send it to you, to your taxi, and then you are graduating that and see what is going on.
Yeah, you've got, for when somebody gets into a taxi, I've given myself 2 minutes to decide whether they're worth interviewing, would they like to be interviewed, and what's the angle I can interview them on. And you get lawyers or bankers who say, oh, I'm just a lawyer, I'm just a banker or accountant, nothing interesting happens in my life. Well, my next question is, what's your hobby? What's your interest? And you soon see these stories just rolling out. People start, as Jordan Peterson said, if you listen, people will tell you what's wrong and how they want to fix it. And it's very, very true. You just give those people the opportunity to talk. I've got 296 episodes. Yeah, and I've done that in 8 months. Sometimes I can knock out.
This is awesome.
Well, yeah, remember, I don't polish. The episodes aren't polished, because sometimes people get in a taxi. I used to try and give them a wire, a microphone cable, but the problem is it kind of gets pulled, people kind of, so now I just give them a mobile phone. I speak into a mobile phone and I hand it to them and then they just hold it and I just speak extra loud. And so there's a roughness element, but I won't edit it. I won't edit it because I don't want anybody to feel that that I've tried to make them look a certain way. I want them, it's a genuine thing. So if you find that subject interesting, what the person's talked about, you'll try and listen. If you don't, then maybe that episode's not for you because it's not a niche. It's everybody. I've had people who are talking about, I've just been a woman who's just charged for attempted murder, down to drug dealers telling their stories about all their problems, to conductors of the London Philharmonic Orchestra telling his whole career story, all walks of life, all walks of life. Yeah, and some people, if you stop on the street, they never pay you the time of day. When they get in a taxi, it's different. It's just really, really different. And I would say this. My first story was just about a lady, a customer who was a bit homesick. She's a bit tipsy. She's upset with her boyfriend and she tried to come on to me a bit. And I was very professional. Yeah. And all the guys found it amusing when we posted it on our WhatsApp, London Real WhatsApp group. The ladies didn't really find it too interesting. So I thought the podcast is going to be more of a lads. When I asked some people, it's a lads podcast. But since then, you start to find your feet. And so this is what I say to anybody who's trying to start a podcast. Just talk. Whatever is on your mind, just talk. Because you will find where you want to go. If you see what I mean. If you're trying to plan out everything ahead of time, we're going to do this. No. Just do what you're doing. You will see what people, if they take to it, if they don't, because some people may not take to it, but it's really on your heart. Carry on talking because there's 7.5 billion people on earth. It's going to start reaching some people who think like you or are going through what you're going through. So what I've come to the realization is that with this podcast now, so I don't aim on driving a taxi forever, but what it is, it's about helping society. Everybody's got, and remember Joe Ingram, from our London Real. He said to me, and I'm not sure if you remember this, Keir, he said to me, your gift in life is your experience. I'm kind of paraphrasing. And he said, you have a duty to share your gift to help other people down the road you've traveled. So who are you to hold back that gift from other people? And that really kind of dug me. It's like,
Miss Joel. Shout out to Joel Ingram, by the way.
And so I always lose it. And I say that to other people, and I say that to riders. I say, because you can see when some people, usually out of 10, 8 people are interested in doing the episode. But the other 2 are like, I can't. I put my job. I had to sign a non-disclosure. The amount of people that have to sign non-disclosures for their job today is unbelievable. And it's not even non-disclosures like don't talk about the company. It's just don't talk about anything. I was like, really? But such is life. But I always pose, going back to that, I always put that to people that you're a master at what you do if you've done more than 10,000 hours. So theoretically, if you've done 6 months or a year, you've done 10,000 hours. They say, no, I can't be a master. I don't know everything. I said, yeah, but what you do know, you're a master at. Now, somebody may want to enter into that industry. So how about you share your gift? It usually gets us them every time. Oh, okay, then. Okay, that kind of thing. And I've heard some real great stories. There's a guy who he's an investment banker now. Sorry, he owns his own investment bank. He's gone from living in like a project, equivalent in your terms over there, we call it council estates, to having his trainers or sneakers stolen off him when he's a child, going home from school, to studying hard, getting his head down, being the best in everything he went, and making the right connections, and now he owns his own investment bank. And he gave me his details. He said we can do an interview later on. I don't normally do interviews if they're not in a taxi, but for that case, I'd make an exception because he's got such a great story.
It's beautiful.
It is. It
So
is.
inspirational. I
Yeah.
imagine that'll be incredible.
Mhm.
So, Simon, I have a question. What was the story that impacted you until today
The most.
the most?
Yeah.
I get asked that quite a lot, to be honest. Um,
But
I think,
it's always one or two that
Really
is
stand
stay with
out.
you. Yeah.
well, all right, keep in mind, there's 296 episodes. So I think right now we're on probably 285 that are actually out there. The rest are in the bank scheduled to go out daily at 8 a.m. GMT time. I probably heard about 100, 150 stories that I don't get to post because people just tell me their story. And some people, when they tell you start talking, before the corona, people who wanted to talk always sat in the front. They always sat in the front next to me, and they just started babbling and just start talking. And those stories, because they're so personal to that person. Oprah Winfrey said it one time. She said she did an episode, interviewed this lady, and when she asked the lady this question about if she's got kids or such and such, she knew from then. She let the lady finish talk, but that episode's not going out because it's going to cause her more damage than it will help her. Now, there's a bit of a grey area there. If I could get an episode out that's anonymous, as in there's an app I keep on saying I need to download where it distorts the person's voice so you can't know who it is, that's great. But I still need to get permission. Now, if I ask that person permission and they're in a role and they give me their heart to heart as a stranger, as they know they're probably never going to see me again, who am I to interrupt them just to try and get another episode? No. I let them tell their story. I'd be that psychiatrist kind of thing because you're forced to, because you have to be professional. You can't give your personal opinion. If you give your personal opinion, they get upset, they report you, because you gets problem, even though they're telling you their story. So, and that's that thing. In that respect, my worst, I would say this. There's good stories, sad stories, and ugly stories. A bit like the good, the bad, the ugly. I've heard stuff involving children, which it's really, it hurts. And the most I can do is say, listen, try and get a friend, because these are people working nurseries and they're saying they're seeing signs on these, and these are rich people dropping off their children there, and the rich people are not looking after their children as they should be, let's say, to put it nicely. I say, try and get a friend to report them anonymous, so when they come to pick up their children, they will get arrested. You know, all you can do is trying to work your mind to try and help it out. I've had stories where you think it's a bit of sod's law, like the lady who was accused of attempted murder. It wasn't her, but she was there when it happened. They threw somebody out the window. There's at a party. She wasn't involved. She said I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. Everybody run. I think there's about three or four stories up. The police turned up. I didn't know what it's like. I didn't know whether I was in a movie, whether I was dreaming or whatever. But now the police are pressuring her to tell on the people. But if you hear the woman's background, she comes from she's born into a certain kind of environment. And it's like, what do you do? Do you tell or do you do the time? If you tell on somebody or people who throw people out of windows, what's the chance of what's going to happen to you? Said, yeah. So all my best advice would be is claim temporary insanity. Just say, my mind went blank at that moment. It's like I keep on sleeping like I'm going to wake up. I don't really remember being there or what happened, but if I do remember, I'm happy to help you. No, it's a bit of a long shot, but it's the best thing I could come up with in the space of a 20-minute journey. She felt more comfortable, but you can see she's
not actually that bad.
Looking at your face, kid. But she was just like, that's because the judge can't argue with that. A psychiatrist can't dispute that, because those people have to. It's like people have those things. Positive things are, like, for instance, during the lockdown, you're picking up people just being kicked out their partner's house.
Ooh.
And they're packing all their, having to put their stuff, the last stuff in your car. You're taking them, and you can see they're distraught. And these are people you could see. Some, like, I remember this lady, she was really bubbly, thing, but she was just, she's the kind of person you could see is normally bubbly, but she wasn't with it. What do you say to that kind of person? What do you say to but other things, you hear some great stories. Young people that are earning lots of money on YouTube. Like this girl, she said she left school when she was 13, and because she was getting bullied, and then she saw someone doing makeup on YouTube, and she's at home all the time. She thought, I can do that. And then one person liked her. So she did it for about a year, and then somebody famous on influencer liked her page or what she did, and she said she blew up. Now she's got 250,000 subscribers. She's getting 10 grand a month, $10,000, pounds a month, whatever. And but there's even a dark side to that, because they're talking about how the big corporations, even the tobacco companies, are approaching them underhanded and said, if you smoke these in your next videos, we'll pay you some money, send you a check. You're 16, 17, you're not thinking twice about it. You don't even smoke.
That's horrible. So bad.
But this is how they are. But think about it. These are the same companies who spike tobacco, and no one goes to jail.
Well, I mean, and for years knew that they were causing cancer, and hundreds of thousands of people were dying, and for like 30 years. And,
you get a lot of, I don't want to seem too dark, but you get a lot of people who talk about their companies and what's going on behind closed doors. But then you also kind of get the 411 of what's going to happen. Like these driverless taxis, which is going to put me out of a job. Yeah. They actually look very nice, very Gucci. They talk about the problems. It's like, I know you've got them in LA. You've got Wyoming, or there's a company that does driverless taxis in a certain part of LA. I was watching a documentary about it, but they're trying to bring them here. But the British government has said, okay, before you bring them here, you've got to guarantee this. If the car's out of control and it sees old people on the left-hand side and right people on the young people on the right, it must hit the old people, because young people are worth more to society than old people. It's the same thing as if there's fat people on the left and slim people on the right, it must hit the fat people, because fat people aren't valued. These are the rules that they're having to deal with.
Like, so essentially what I'm hearing is that corporations are deciding whose lives are more valuable.
It's not the corporation, it's the government has stipulated
are stipulating that.
Yeah,
the government is deciding whose lives
are
valuable.
These must be. But it makes sense, though. It makes sense. Think of the rule of this.
Very slow, man.
Think of the number one rule, that when your ship is sinking, what happens? Women and children first. Women and children are more valuable than us as men. It's true. There's a reason they say women and children first.
Because the women are the ones who produce babies.
Yeah, you're more valuable. You're more valuable to society. And you can hold it together better than men most of the time. So, it's just one of those things. Men are expendable. We kill each other anyway,
So every day we get in the value.
Sorry? But the government makes it. That's how
every day I cost less.
You're worthless. I don't know about you, but I'm still good. All right, I'm still valuable.
I cannot have more babies, so I'm done.
But remember, it says women and children. It doesn't say old women or young women. It just says women and children. So
well, yeah, but I mean, I almost in the second level. I'm almost 50, so
But
So
then
you
you
still
become
look good.
more because you have
Sorry?
value because now you're wise, right?
Yeah,
right.
there's that. But then the politicians like to be the ones who's wise. They don't like the public to be wise. If you think
Isn't
about
that
it,
the truth? That's a
yeah,
mouthful.
they don't like the public to be wise. The politicians, yeah, we're wise. We take all your money. We'll charge you more taxes. But the public can be. Yeah, so,
Hi,
but then,
Jack.
Hey,
okay.
Jacqueline.
So what was interesting though, they talk about the future cities. There's a guy who used to work for Microsoft. He did it for 18 years, but he used to work for Microsoft before it was big. He said those days when he used to work for Microsoft, you could walk into Bill Gates' office. And that was his story was very, very interesting.
I bet.
Because he was saying how Bill Gates, as a person now, is very easy to get on with than before. It was funny. He was saying that there's classic statements that he had in a meeting, and it would be like if you were speaking and you weren't clear, and you weren't clear in what you were saying, he'd just go next, like that, and that was the end of you. Or if you were speaking and you were
corporations I worked in when I worked in corporate back in the day.
Yeah. And the other classic line was if you were speaking and he didn't agree, he thought what you're saying was like rubbish, he'd just look at you and go, do I actually pay you?
Wow.
I just laughed. I just had to laugh. But then I said this to the man. I said, you know what? I've never met Bill Gates, and I probably won't ever will. But if you're a genius, you expect a minimum standard. You expect people to be in the same par as you. Steve Jobs, think of it. Steve Jobs has the same temperament. Jeff, someone was telling me the other day, what is that? Jeff, the Amazon guy. He doesn't let you do presentations visually. You just have to stand up and speak. That's a standard. He's saying if you're coming to the party, you should know how to speak, explain it in minimal words, everybody knows, and we move on. It's a standard. So these are things I've just learned from Joe Public. Not news, these are first-hand kind of stories. So this Taxi Chronicles, it's working really well. I'm not sure how long I can do it for. Driving a taxi is not my be-all and end-all. I'm doing things about investing in Africa as well. Along with that podcast, I'm going to start pushing. Start pushing. But yeah, you learn a lot. Overall, I believe the world is a very nice. People are nice. Excuse me. Overall, I believe people are nice in this world. That's what I've learned from doing the Taxi Chronicles, and people mean well. Have I frozen, or is Gloria frozen?
You're not frozen, but Gloria's frozen. But we're live, so we're gonna just keep rolling with it, and she'll catch up. Yeah, hopefully she'll turn back up. Yeah. So I have a question though. I love Taxi Chronicles. If you haven't heard it, everyone should go run and listen to it. It's everywhere you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere, and check it out. But my next question for you is because you just mentioned that you invest in Africa. What made you decide to invest in Africa?
Well, it's a bit of two things, really. After my last tour, I tried to go back into commercial construction and it wasn't going to work. I was used to hearing gunfire in the morning, gunfire in the evening, being chased or chasing people around the Afghan terrain. So, now you've kind of gone on an adrenaline dump. There's nothing there. We was in a meeting for 8 hours discussing the color of yellow and with some architects. And I said, this is not for me. So then we had remember they had the thing of the pirates, where you could to stop the pirates were hijacking the vessels at sea.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I remember that. There's like a movie everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've seen that vessel in real life. That sea, it's in a bad condition. But anyway, it was then. That was many years ago. But I was doing that job. Now I say pirates, but really they're not really pirates. They're people who are certain governments were taking advantage. The Italian and Spanish government was dropping their toxic waste in their waters, killing their fish. And they started to hold, the local fishermen started to hold them to ransom, the vessel. So what are you doing? Give us some money or we'll come up there and kill you. So they have these fast skiffs. And then it grew from a business like that because the fishermen, obviously they were getting their money, but they're telling their family back inland who are warlords what's going on. So now the big boys come down who are used to it, and then they turn it into a big business. So anyway, my job was to, as many ex-militaries, to stop these pirates, for lack of better words. I only stress that point because I speak to a lot of Somali people and they get very upset if you use the term pirates, and so that's why I say it like that. And I understand their cause, really. I understand their point of view. So I did that job for 5 years. So we was going in around the Indian Ocean, all the way up to Kuwait, down to Sri Lanka, over to down to South Africa, and up to Egypt. So it was interesting because you're in all these different countries. Was in Sudan when they started to have their civil war again. Was in Yemen when they were having their civil war. That was very funny. Was in Egypt when the Arabs thing was going on. So in all these different places, it was funny. And me, I don't care. I walk around. I don't care what they're doing there, having their domestics, whatever. Don't bother me. I'm still going to see what I want to see. That's my mind. That's who I am. Yeah. That kind of thing. So I did that. And then we used to birth in Mombasa. Now, Mombasa is in Kenya, for those who don't know. It's their coastal port. Now, because it was, the Chinese hadn't really situated themselves yet there, and they hadn't built the port. So it used to take 7 days to offload the vessel and reload it, in comparison to what would happen in Dubai. It would take 8 or 10 hours in a port. So I used to just go ashore and enjoy my life, snorkeling and doing all these different things. But then it occurred to me, everything I'm looking at, you can see business potentials everywhere. Like just different, like your car wash or this thing or that thing there. And then it occurred to me, it's like having a crystal ball. Everything that's happened in England or America is going to happen here. The question is, do you want to be a part of it? Because they're going down the Western route of modernization and all those things. So I said, okay, well, I'm a construction background, so let me start investing in construction to build a block of flats. I was meant to build a block of flats for 35 units and do a deal with somebody who owned the land already. But that didn't really work out. Maybe it was a godsend it didn't work out, but I ended up starting up a gym. It was a nice gym. It was a really good gym. And then from the gym, we had like weekend hikes, and we used to go to the beach and do exercise on the beach, yoga on the beach with the sunrise over the Indian Ocean, lots of things. I had a car hire, a clothing line, a fleet of tuk-tuks, the rickshaws for those who don't know what they are. And that was my investment. So I sold my property and I was there. But there's also a personal side, and this is what I want to stress. I started to get really sick and throwing up and getting diarrhea, and I was really, my body was really unbalanced. And only when I was in the hot sun, I felt somewhat stable. Now, after some time, I never used to go back to England. I just wanted to be in the sun all the time, whether it's in Dubai or South Africa. I just wanted the sun. And then I noticed my time living more in Africa, I was eating the fresh food. They don't deal with genetically modified food or anything like that there. And then there's also, I used to get migraines and other things, and I couldn't eat cheese, chocolates, nuts, oranges, and all these stuff. But then over some years, it's like my body got purged of all the rubbish I'd be eating back in England and everything. And then now everything I couldn't eat, I can eat now. The headache stopped. My body is balanced. Everything. So what I'd say to people, if you have health issues and it's nutrition based, usually, in fact. Go to Africa or some hot country where they have natural food. So there's no Walmarts or Asda's or none of those rubbish companies, and just eat healthy raw food. So you see the goat running around in the street or whatever he does, and someone comes and cuts him and serves him up. That's the best food. That's the best meat. You don't need to worry about being pescatarian because the meat is real meat. It's not been injected. It's nothing. And you'll come out all right. It may take a couple of years, but it's your health. And that's what really happened for me. That's why I wouldn't stay in England indefinitely. And I'd always make sure I go back to kind of help my body repurge itself. Because I believe the toxins and all the stuff I'd eaten, especially the military food, they give you food that's like 10 years old in the tin foil. In a tin foil bag. You've got to think about it. Because think of the American rations. You've eaten American rations in the military. Yeah. You can't even identify your food. No, think about that though. You can't, it's a mush, isn't it? You can't identify it. And you're going to put that in your body. Really? Really? And then we wonder why we got problems.
MREs.
Your MREs. We call them rat packs, ration packs, because they're like saying they're fit for rats. But generally, you think about that, it's in tin. Tin's not the best food, best thing. Tin food's not the best thing. They say tin is starts cancer, can start cancer and stuff. I think we've lost Gloria.
Yeah, I think she's trying to back. We'll see what happens.
Okay, but that was my main thing about why I invested in Africa. So partly it was health and also a business opportunity. And if you look at it, 30% of the world's natural resources, known natural resources, I should stress, come from Africa. We couldn't talk today without what they mine from the DRC, because that material, that natural material that works all modern, all stuff that works on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and everything, it gets mined from the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, for those who don't know. There's oil, there's diamonds, there's gems, there's everything there that we need. Really? And if you look at it, there's been a big scramble for Africa. The Russians, the Chinese, obviously Europeans, North America. They may make the news look bad, don't go to Africa, but they're all there. All the big businessmen are there. They're there for a reason. They don't want to share the secret. They don't want to share it. Now, there's ways of investing in Africa. You could invest in Africa for where you are. You could say, okay, I want to start selling African products because I think it will be let's say the Black American community may want to purchase that, or people in general may want to purchase that. Yeah, it's not about race. It's just generally there's somebody who makes something on the street that's very useful, very good, or very for the LA. Like they've got this thing called Masai sandals that are really colourful and beaded and nice and good quality leather. That'll probably sell in LA because you don't have that beach hot environment, that kind of thing. But the person who makes them doesn't have any connections to America. Now that's where someone like me will come in and say, okay, let me fix you up with this market and guide you. We'll work out a percentage and we move on from there. And there's great opportunities. Great opportunities for investing in Africa in that respect.
That's amazing. So we're having a little technical difficulties with Gloria at the moment. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to jump off of here and come right back. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hang on. We're going to come right back with Gloria so that we can finish the rest of the show and close out properly. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay. Just leave the studio, Simon, and I'll meet you back in the green room with Gloria.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
Hmm.